Before I start explaining how I ended up here, I'd like to ask you 3 questions. So if everybody please get on your feet. And now I'd like every one of you who's not the least concerned about the climate problem to sit down. Thank you. And now for all of you that don't have any contact with food during the day, not in the morning, not lunchtime, not in dinner, not any contact with food, you can sit down now. Okay, thanks. And the third question, if there's any one of you here that could imagine doing a little something in your everyday life to prevent or to help the challenge that the climate poses, you can put out your hand like this, draw it 30 centimeters to your left, and then open it as you were dropping something. Okay? Okay, thanks a lot. You can have a seat. My conclusion is that you are all in the same situation I was in 2007. I was concerned about the climate problem, and I was ready to do something in my everyday life to do something about it, but I didn't have an idea. But I needed a hobby, because up until then, the last years, I had spent renovating my home. Is there anyone here who renovated their kitchen or bathroom or anything? Yeah? Is it your experience that it takes more time than you expected? Yeah. It took me 2.5 years to refurbish a bathroom that's 3 centimeters, 3 square meters, 2.5 years. I had this idea. Did you also want to make something a little special in that place? Yeah, I had this idea to make a bathtub with tiles in it. And that led me to making a cement bathtub. And that's really heavy, so you want to secure your neighbor from not getting that bathtub on top of their shower. So I had the idea that I had to place some kind of steel beams underneath the construction in order for not to fall down. And while excavating the brick wall to place these steel beams on the bricks, instead of darkness and darkness in that hole where the bricks were removed, suddenly there was light. And I excavated my way into the elevator shaft of the building. But the thing was that although I had a lot of experiences like that during those 2.5 years, when I was finished with the bathroom, I realized that I needed a hobby. I really liked this concept of having something else, apart from my work as a doctor, something else running in my head. Because during those years when I looked for details for my bathroom, every visit to a new toilet was interesting. I was looking for what kind of faucets did they use, what kind of tiles, what width, was there silicone? All these things were playing in my mind because I was looking for the perfect solution. So I need a hobby. I'm in the situation you are, and a friend of mine tells me about biogas. He says there's a system in Stockholm running 150 buses on a sustainable fuel produced from sewage and food waste. I couldn't believe that. The world is racing to replace fossil fuels, and he tells me there's a large-scale system working in the town where I live that does exactly this, because every town in the world has a lot of food waste and a lot of sewage and a need for transportation. All of this comes with the population. And I thought this was a fantastic idea, but I was also puzzled by the fact that I never had heard a word about it. I never heard the word biogas. And I thought, if I haven't heard about it, there's a lot of other people that haven't heard about it. And one thing is certain, a decision maker, being it a politician, Yvonne knows all about biogas, but all politicians don't. Or if you're in a business, you're not going to take a decision on an infrastructural project if you don't know it, if you don't feel secure about the fact that this is reliable, it's a good thing to invest in or to make your policies support. So I said to myself, I'm going to make the policymakers in Sweden have this knowledge. And 2007 was 2 years before we were main chair country of the EU. And what happens when you're chair country of the EU? Every politician comes to Stockholm. So I decided to make Stockholm a global school for biogas technology, because if we were in Kristianstad, it wouldn't be a problem. But in Stockholm it is. And that's where the national policymakers work. That's where all the Nobel laureates come to. And of course then, you want the airport to say, welcome to biogas country. You want the buses to say, this is a biogas bus. You want the hotels to say, we're making biogas with our food waste. So, how do you do that? You get 2 minutes to talk to the person next to you. How would you go about that? What group would you target if you wanted to turn your city into a global school for example, biogas? I'll keep eye on the clock. You discuss. Helt valfritt. Okay. I thought that if I just could convince the politician in Stockholm City Hall that this was a great idea to kind of brag about, that Stockholm should be proud about this, over this technology, they would write it everywhere, in the airport, on the buses, on the Nobel Prize dinner, and so forth. I sent a very polite, I tried being polite, so I sent a very long email explaining a lot about things about myself. I was a doctor and blah, blah, blah. No response. And then eventually I sent a shorter email and still no response. And then I was coming home from a restaurant one night a bit drunk, and I got really annoyed and I sent a very short message. And then to my great surprise, I got a response, but it wasn't positive. And the meaning was kind of, don't mingle in this. It's not your business. So then I tried to embarrass this politician by sponsoring part-time, 2 guys that worked part-time to increase the amount of food waste collected in the city. And in 9 months, they increased the collected food waste with 1,200 metric tons a year. It's like 3.5 tons a day. But this didn't help either. The city was not interested in communicating biogas. So then I turned to the municipality running the hospitals. I called the environmental head of the municipality and I said, what's your opinion about biogas? What's your thoughts? She said, we love biogas. We have the largest fleet of biogas buses in Stockholm. We want all the biogas we can get. And I said, so what about the food waste in the hospitals? Why don't you make biogas from that? We haven't thought of that, she said. No, but don't you think it's a good idea? And then she said, well, it's not your business, is it? No, I said, it's not my business, but it's still a good idea, isn't it? Yeah, well. So then I took a look at the hospitals, the hospital where I was working. This is the bathroom, almost at the lowest point. You see the steel beams there, so the elevator shaft is obviously behind that wall. I wasn't too happy about that. This is what it looked like in the hospital. The fact was that there was instruction given to the workers there to scrape the food waste separately away from the plastic plates. Plastic plates to the left, food waste to the right. And there was a janitor that went to collect all of this at a certain hour. The only problem was, as you see, if you work with a sack, if it's too big, it falls out of the holder. So if you drop one potato in, everything goes to the floor like this. And that you get sick of that, so you take a sack that goes all the way from the floor up to the height where you want to work. And that meant that you use a sack for 120, it takes 120 liters, but you only throw in about 4-6 liters of food waste every day. So this turns into this situation. in the basement. Armin there, the janitor, collects all the sacks. But since the personnel were given the bio starch sacks, the green one you see, it looks very flimsy. So they think it's going to break. So we change to a black one. Or we use two. Or we use white ones or blue ones. So the only guy knowing in the cellar which sack contains food waste is Armin. And of course, since there's 7 liters of food waste in a 120-liter sack, you can't get any food waste out of it. So all of this work from the staff, from Armin, all of the sacks were thrown into the garbage. The only thing I did was I changed that sack to a reusable container. And then I trained the hospital staff. So instead of a sack, every ward bought 2 of these, and they washed them in the restaurant dishwasher, and it was recycled to the ward. Do you know, could you guess how much food waste one hospital provided in a year? Any idea? It's impossible to guess, but how much? A ton? Lots of tons. How much? A lot. Yeah. 85 tons. 85 tons, and since the chain delivering the food were paying for the sacks, and they saved money on this, this was implemented in all the Stockholm hospitals within 2 years. So now we're collecting 600 tons every year through this. Unfortunately, they still weren't interested in communicating biogas. But it did lead to, I got a couple of prizes. Fashion were different then, Johan. You have to excuse me for this shawl. But it did lead to the city changing policy. So Stockholm decided to adapt the national policy of collecting food waste. And I found some support. This is an article in the National Geographic, which talks about fracking and how fracking has led to, of course, the problem of methane leaking into the groundwater and making it unusable. You can't use it anymore. But at the end of this article that talks a lot about natural gas in the States, there's a small piece of this. Anyone knows what this is? This is a fermentation chamber for biogas, and it's actually in Kristianstad. And then it says, Kristianstad, Sweden aims to free itself entirely from fossil energy, largely by extracting methane-rich biogas from pork offal, household food scraps, and other waste. My ambition was, of course, to make National Geographic make the big article on Kristianstad and the small one about fracking. But all the natural gas in the world is a perfect way to pave way for biogas, since we're turning a lot of vehicles and a lot of ships into being gas-powered. And also because of natural gas-powered vehicles have cleaner exhaust fumes. So the air quality is better, and we can use them for fueled by biogas once we teach other countries how to produce biogas. If I have the time, I'd like to just tell about one more project. Is it okay? Yeah.
A different project? Or?
Yeah, it's a visibility project.
2 more minutes.
Okay, 2 more minutes. This is another thing. I was asking companies that have things to do with biogas if it wouldn't be a good idea to make one national symbol. Because since this value chain, if you want to teach politicians about this, we want to teach school kids about this, it's so much easier if all the schools, all the hotels, all the food chain restaurants, the buses and cars have the same symbol. So this was an idea that I presented a year ago, and in June we finished. So there's 18 companies now that have decided on making, yes, please, you can take that out. No, wait, I'll do it. 18 companies decided that this is the way biogas is supposed to be communicated in Sweden. And of course, Now, I'll jump over through a lot of pictures here, but I'll just get to the ones demonstrating the use of this. Today, you can't see biogas anywhere in Sweden. This is the largest production plant in Stockholm. It only tells the temperature and how much water they're purifying an hour, every minute, but nothing about the fact that they're producing the smartest car fuel in the world. Same in the filling stations. But with this new symbol, 80,000 garbage cans in the suburbs of Stockholm can make a connection between how they throw their food waste, what car they buy. And as you said, Johan, fashion is important. So very much of this is a question of identifying with the people that are doing the right thing, according to you. And in October, on opening the first biogas plant in Stockholm for food waste, former Prime Minister and present Energy Minister are both sporting the new symbol of biogas. And of course, it actually 6 million Swedes go to the toilet, and we make biogas from that too. So there's limitless space for this new symbol.
And this is still just a hobby?
This is still just a hobby. Armin is happy, and the bathroom did come out. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much.